Okay, so now we are on the module in contemporary. There's going to be one more on multicultural. I want to bring in some other historical cultures, their approach, and you'll be able to identify their design principles. But contemporary art, contemporary art is art that is today, and it's big. And you'll see with this. I mean, for me to even choose certain artists, it's hard to even choose artists because there's so many wonderful artists and so many exciting things. I have to leave out some things, but I think that PowerPoint video on modern, you're now going to see how all this really relates to that's really building on those styles and that shift in culture beginning in the 20th century. And so now you throw in those styles, variations on those styles, you throw in what is happening in our culture, and you throw in technology, and it's wide open. So postmodern, we are postmodern, you are postmodern. And that just means that, and there's no real date, but a lot of times I just say around the 70s, and actually the term was coined by because of architecture, that mixed styles. So postmodern also, you could just say, well, that's a postmodern style. So that word is used in two ways. So that's the little, so this is where we left off with Earthworks, and I wanted to share Christo. He just passed away, and he's a well-known artist. And we looked at Spiral Jetty, but this isn't. If you look very carefully, see that little motorboat back there? That's how large this scale is. And Christo is known for wrapping things. He would wrap literally buildings, museums with cloth and rope, and of course these are temporary. And you have to get a lot of clearance and permits for these multi-million-dollar installations. And so here you have that pink plastic floating, surrounding those islands in Biscayne, Florida. And it was only up for 2 weeks because you can't harm, sea life. So, and of course, these installations, you can't own it. But all we have now is historical references and pictures and the artist himself, certainly foundations. I mean, this is multi-million-dollar projects, takes thousands of people to assist him, many volunteers. How does he even fund that? Well, he funds it with some grants, some foundations, as well as just making money as an artist, whether it's selling works or posters or books or whatever. So, and he's very, very famous, Christo. So we also talked about this, and this is very important, conceptual art. We ended with that because this is Kosuth, and I want to share a couple more of his. And so what we're doing here is you can already see those in modernism. See, Dadaism is very important. And so I noted it in some of these slides because you would not see this work of art if you didn't have Marcel Duchamp on the bicycle wheel saying, look, art can be made out of anything. It's about an idea. It doesn't have to be bronze. I mean, who decides what material it should be made out of? That's Dadaism. It challenges culture, challenges why art is what it is, and challenges perceptions of hierarchical perceptions of what it should be made out of. So you see that reflected today. It begins here. And conceptual art but specifically is about perceptions, which are very relative today, obviously, because your perception about something, even if it's a car accident we both witnessed, you may have seen it differently. So perceptions are very relevant today, and they have been since the 70s, and they're relevant because that begins actually with some pretty important movements like the women's movement in the 60s and the civil rights movement in the 50s. So we're coming out of that, and I'm not showing you feminist art. I'm just, there's only so much time we have here. But that's what that idea of perceptions is coming out of, like those two movements. So this is Kossuth and 1 and 3 chairs. And again, you have, the idea of what chair is. If I say chair, you see a chair in your mind. But here's a photograph. Here's a wooden chair, and then his famous dictionary right here, definitions. And so again, he's challenging, like Dada, they're challenging materials and who decides what art is. He's challenging conceptual artists. This one in particular is really challenging our perceptions about the nature of art, what art is, because you see it's many things. It's many things, and the art object, okay? So that's a long discussion, the nature of art. Is it about a feeling? Is it about realism? Is it for political or social? So there's many reasons that the nature of art, that why those things change. And my phone's ringing, I'm sorry. So then I want to just share with you, let me turn my phone off. I love his paintings because this is a black painting. The title is Nothing, and it's in part of a series, Art as Idea. And so he did a series of black paintings, large black paintings, and all he did here is take the dictionary definition of a word that he selects, and then he hand paints that onto the surface. And so this is out of that series. The title of the painting is Nothing. So, I don't need to go into, first of all, you have to understand painting can be about anything, art can be about anything, and this is obviously about an idea. And so the next slide is an exhibit of his, where he's in one exhibit where those paintings are being exhibited, and obviously this also deals with something else that's happening in this gallery, which is something dealing with color, obviously. But he had a series of these paintings, and one would have art, definition art. It had meaning, definition of meaning. The one you just looked at was nothing. So that's Kossuth. So these paintings right here that are cut, that's actually by another artist, which we're not going to go into. But that was an exhibit that I found online that you could see his work being exhibited. Now, postmodern, this is a postmodern piece. And as you can see, what is postmodern? Postmodern is us. So what you see just with your eyes is, whoa, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's some fabric, like kids' room fabric. There's a basketball player. There is a caterpillar from, and then the mushrooms from a famous children's story, Alice in Wonderland. So and there's polka dots. So what is this about? And this is a great example of postmodern, because postmodern is many things. It is many layers of meaning, perceptions. It is mixing of styles in the same work. Sometimes you do have text. And so you juxtapose unlike things. And that's why you see this against this against this. That is postmodern. That is a iconic postmodern style of mixing. We'll talk about this in depth as well. And so this is the same artist, Sigmar Polk, and this is 3 New Commandments Found, and this is 1998. And as you can see, what do we have here? We've got, there's some spray paint. It looks like a policeman. It looks like some kind of cell happening, and there's some prisoners, and then there's some spray paint here, and there's like, what is this? This is postmodern. Obviously, titles are important. In postmodern, there's no absolute truth. There's no fixed meaning, and the work reflects that. It's lack of stability in a culture, a synthesis of the meaning. You can use layers. You can use something like spray paint that we would say, well, that's not high art, but you put it into this. It doesn't have to be this highly polished, rendered, amazing, realistic painting. And where nothing's excluded. that is the best example of postmodern. If a person is working within those characteristics, because there's other ways of working within postmodern. And, when I say those words, obviously they should ring true for you, because we are in a period, we have been in a shifting period of change culturally. So, yeah, that's Sigmar Pope, one of my favorites. And that's the one we just looked at. This is using, the title is Alice in Wonderland, and you've got fabric on there, you've got painting on there. Again, mixed media, thank you, Dada. So this is just to show you another postmodern artist where it's called Stonehenge with two persons, an orange. And so, there's, again, perceptions and synthesis of meaning, like what? Here are some photographic images, two fellows, and here's, of course, that Stonehenge monument. And then you have these dots that are blocking out their face. So, this very simply, in a direct, uncomplicated way, is, the artist is bringing about for you to wonder, to question what the meaning is. Why is this being blocked? Why is he juxtaposing something photographic against something flat, black and white against color? Okay. And then this is when he takes old photographs and then he just paints these dots on them. And that is Baldessari, and that is definitely postmodern too. So David Hammons, he's an African-American artist that is postmodern. And, here you have a sculpture. And you could say he's postmodern. He's also conceptual. So there's not just one art. There's just not, you could have a style within postmodernism because that is the period. And so, notions of identity is part of postmodernism, as well as a very important theme that artists have been working with, particular people of color, notions of identity in this culture. And so here you have, here's a sculpture, and you have a basketball hoop, and you have chandeliers in this sculpture, and it's lit. So this artist is challenging you to bring your own meaning or perceptions about what this represents. I bring my own perceptions, and that's also what is relevant in contemporary art, is that you bring your perceptions to a work of art, your experiences. And so I bring mine when I look at this. And for me, obviously, it's challenging what the basketball hoop means to a particular culture. And then combining that with chandeliers, are about affluency and wealth. So, so it's postmodern, and it's about, like, I'm describing this, and that's the discourse, that there's some dialogue taking place about meaning and perception. And also you could put identity in there. And so, this can get it's not scholarly. I wouldn't say it's complicated, but I would say that, if anything, it's the opposite of complicated. It's in your face. But what's important here is the challenge for the public to see, that understand that this is about something else than what they think art should be about, which is beauty or, landscape, or what they think it should be about. Because what they don't understand, that it's about many things, and it's a very exciting time to be an artist, and artworks are exciting. And so again, art reflects the culture that exists in. So 1,000 years from now, people, like we did with modernism and those other styles, they will just sort of, in an art survey class, talk about our culture within the context that I'm talking about it. And that was created in that culture because of those issues, those shifts, those problems. Yeah. Graffiti art became relevant. Now, graffiti art is not new. Even the Romans had graffiti art on the walls. In Rome, graffiti art is not new, but it's certainly in our culture something you see on the side of trains, and young folks go out with spray cans and they take other people's property and put their image on it, their tag on it. Okay. Well, finally, but that's a way to express yourself. And graffiti artists like this one, John Basquiat, and you'll notice that I only use their last name. That's what we do. We don't say their full name. He was he was a graffiti artist, and what's happened is the galleries start bringing their work into the galleries. And so where he would have sprayed the side of a building or something, now he's actually painting on a piece of canvas. And he was a buddy of Andy Warhol, the pop artist, and he shot to fame pretty quickly. Unfortunately, he died very young. But again, he is actually very relevant because his work is relevant to what's happening today in culture. And so, this is, here's one of his paintings. Yeah. A lot of text. You would say, well, this is postmodern. I wouldn't call this conceptual. I wouldn't call this graffiti art because it's in a gallery. I would just have to say this is postmodern and understand what's happening in this painting about challenging perceptions and identity and using images that are very simplistic images. Yeah. Okay. One of the most famous graffiti artists today is Banksy. Banksy flies all over. No one has ever seen him. And these are where he will go in clandestine and either spray, and you can see the scale of this, and spray paint these images or paint them very quickly on the sides of walls. And actually people go, if it's a wall they can take apart, they will actually collect his work by removing, some stones to have his work, because he's very well known, and he's actually a very important artist. He's a graffiti artist, and obviously graffiti artist is about identity, but it's also political, and his is obviously very political. And it's about, capitalism, or in this case, here is a brick wall, and his he's whitewashed and then painted this, and then you have that. And here he's got There's Always Hope, and you've got this wonderful little child. So Banksy is he is renowned worldwide, but he keeps his identity a secret. Now, this is the art of appropriation, and it's a style, and this is by Jeff Koons. He does the balloon dogs that was on the first slide. And art of appropriation means that you would appropriate those things in culture that we would recognize, and you bring them up to the status of high art. Now, this comes a little after, this is 80s pop art. So this is an influence of pop art, which is identify something like the Campbell soup can. So you can see how even in these pieces, you can go back to modernism and see their influence on these contemporary works or postmodern works. So of course, this is the late Michael Jackson, and he had a little chimp named Bubbles, and this is a portrait of him, but it is in porcelain. And this porcelain is something that's from the Rococo period in history, when you have all this detailed porcelain ceramic painted with not gold leafing, but gold lusters. And so that's the spinoff on this, Jeff Koons. And his probably most popular are well known. These are all over the world, and these are balloon dogs, anodized aluminum, and they are all different colors, and they're very large. And yeah, this is what we call art of appropriation, which you take that idea of the balloon dog that, or a balloon creature that, would be maybe at a children's party, you'd have a clown making these for kids. So this is art of appropriation, to appropriate things that we can identify and then bring them to levels of high art. And I think what's important here is, art can be fun. Art can be fun. It doesn't have to be about religion or the idealized figure of the Greeks, or political in terms of Medusa. It can be fun. And his works are fun. Barbara Kruger. Now, she is, I would call her art is appropriation art, because what she does is she takes photographs and then she makes these images using photography, and it's all political. I shop, therefore I am. They're all in the same color scheme, black and white photograph, and then she combines them with stark red and white to draw attention. And her series is obviously very political, and it's also about our identity, about like who we are, like how do we see ourselves, and capitalism and what defines us. So, this is an installation that she put in a department store. An installation is not a non-permanent like a earthwork. Artists will install a work, and then it is removed. So this is in a department store. She installed a work where there's many pieces, and then you're just going around shopping and you read this sign that says, "Buy me, I'll change your life." And you can see where she's going, and she calls these all non-truisms, or truisms rather. And so again, you're dealing with perceptions about truth, perceptions about yourself. I just put a couple of these in. Your body is a battleground, dealing with women. And then you have, it looks like it, but this is actually consumerism, the art of consumerism. You could call this art of appropriation, okay? It would be okay. And what's important is that you know that you can go buy stuff in a store and it become a work of art if you arranged it in a particular way. And here you've got some little digital clocks here, lava lamps, and then these red pots. Well, what's the difference between the art of consumerism and appropriation? It's usually the artist's intent. The artist's intent. So, well, you see up here, I say, well, you could put Jeff Koons as art of consumerism or art as appropriation. It depends what it's about. I'm sort of splitting hairs here. It's important for art students, but it's all about consumer culture, just like pop art is about consumer culture. So you could say, well, Andy Warhol's soup cans are art of consumerism. Well, yeah, they are. But it's an important style that took place, and that's what they called it. And so, some artists are just attracted to that. And these forms are quite beautiful. So I'm not going to nitpick between appropriation and consumerism. I think you get the idea. And so I like this artist. I just think his work is clean, well crafted, with these little Tonka trucks and this little thing here, and this is from Mica relief stands that he builds. And it's all about his approach of stacking or lining up. But consumerism, and this is beautiful color, how he matches this black to this black. You have a little red focal point. So this is consumerism, art of consumerism. It could be appropriation. And it goes right back to Dadaism. Links. If we didn't have Dadaism, those challenges, we wouldn't have these works. Now, in this series, real quick, I want to shift to themes, because Sharon Nesset, she works more thematically in the postmodern period, and this is in the 90s, and she obviously is from another country. Iran, and she's a woman, so she lives here now, and she deals with themes of identity, her own identity, growing up as an Iranian woman and those challenges. And so here she'll take photographs, and then what she'll do is they're very large, and then she will paint her language on the photograph to create these altered photographs. And so I wanted to share some of those with you, as well as I like to show artists working. So here is her working on a large piece of photograph. And this is another one of her works. And it's, artists usually work in series. And this is her Women of Allah series. And of course, she's exploring ideas about femininity or the relationship of being a woman in Islamic fundamentalism and military. So she combines the woman with all this writing, and don't ask me what that says. And then, of course, this is the end of a gunpoint. So these are quite beautiful, and here is a beautiful one. I wanted to share something that is a lot more maternal and one of innocence. And I love these. The title is Our House is on Fire series. And again, she's dealing, with those concepts of, well, many layers, right? Layers, like the woman growing up in that culture, and then the use of firearms, and then you have, this could be anybody, this could be a man or a woman, and then you're tagged like in a bounty bag. So these are quite exquisite images of some very serious subject matter. And you can see we're already in 2000. So I'm sort of bouncing around a little bit, but I've just brought us up from, into the 80s, from the 70s. And in terms of identity, I love this. This is a Native American artist, and this is a huge painting. And here she hangs this clothesline, and these are all things you would buy, in a gift store that are from China. And here's her painting, a mixing of images. And here, I'm sorry, I'm blocking it. I think the next slide is, well, in the PowerPoint, you'll see this, and I won't be blocking it. And so I love this. It's a mixing of images. It's a layered, and the title is Trade, Gifts for Trading Land with White People. And this is Juan Quick to See Smith. She is a female Native American artist. Okay. This is Carol Walker is a very significant African American female artist that uses cutouts, those innocent cutouts in the turn of the last century, when people would get their portraits made and someone would just do a silhouette in our late 1800s, early 1900s. Well, she takes that idea, and then she brings these silhouettes of African Americans in their own struggle and their history, and places them within this Southern context. And so she will have these on the wall life size, but in this case, I wanted to show you this because she's also using technology. Not only are these images on the wall, this is titled Darky Town, but she's also projecting using light, projecting images. So we've got some technology. Carol Walker. Carol Walker is a postmodern, a theme of identity, and you also have themes of nature that are very relevant. And Roxy Payne is an artist, and if you ever go to the North Carolina Museum of Art in Raleigh, you'll see all the ancient stuff, and you'll see this artist. You'll see several of the artists that I'm going to show you, their work, and you have to see it in person. This isn't the one in Raleigh. But this young man just takes trees, and then he recreates them in aluminum, large scale. And so I love this. So here you have this broken tree, like a storm has come through, in stainless steel. All right. So themes of nature. Now, post-Black, the new millennium. Okay, post-Black is a movement, but it's also a style. And you don't have to say, just because you're African American artist doesn't mean you're part of the post-Black movement, but it depends what the artist identifies with. But, post-Black is, you could also call it a period. I'm post-Black artist. I'm postmodern, post-Black artist. But it's obvious what it is it's reflecting on and exploring those experiences of being African American in the 20th and 21st century. So this is when you have our man Kehinde Wiley. Now Wiley, and you know what? I don't know if he identifies himself as post-Black, probably does. I mean, he knows what's going on in the world of art culture. So, and he definitely, if you look at one of his videos, he talks about, when he went to museums, he didn't see any Black faces in these works in museums. And so obviously he is the one that takes these masters like Napoleon crossing the Alps, see how much you know, and then he puts himself in it. Now, if you didn't know that period, the Romantic painting by Napoleon, that's okay. But when you know, then it brings even deeper, more meaning to the work, and you have a greater understanding, or your perception about the piece can change. And so I show you that. And this is the one that we've been looking at that I just wanted to bring up again and show you the scale. This is a beautiful painting. Beautiful, beautiful painting. The color, the scale, the patterns, the meaning. And then like I said, I like to show artists at work. So here he is painting. Like I said, a lot of these backgrounds are painted in China, and he sends them out and they paint them, and then he paints the figure. That's something that artists have always done. Even in the Renaissance, they had people that were training with them that would paint on the painting. So don't think it takes away from his work, because it's his idea. He's putting this together. He's doing the deal, and these are exquisite. Mickaleen Thomas, I just like to throw women in there, and she's a post-Black artist, and you'll see her at the North Carolina Museum of Art. And this is also, now this is really nice because she's exploring ideas of Black femininity, and what you can't see here is, because you have to see the original work, there's beads and sequins and fur, and this is so mixed media. Mixed media means just a mixing of different materials. And these are exquisite works. This is what I'm trying to show you here is, see, she plays off this too. You wouldn't know, this is a realist painter, Manet. You only looked at Courbet with Show Me an Angel, but this is Manet. He's a realist painter. He's still bringing some of this undraped figure, the idealized, but it is everyday painting. And so what she does is, art students would know this painting, she takes that composition and there she puts it in 21st century. These three gals have it, and I don't know the title of this. So again, she's another artist that plays off of masters, because we just appropriate. Like, I could take that and make that a composition and say I'm going to have 4 people, and it wouldn't look anything like this, but I'm still looking at composition or poses to inspire me for something. So you could say that's appropriate. The artist Nick Cave. Now, we haven't talked about performance art. Performance art is when artists actually are, it's not like ballet, but it is artists that are doing sculptors that are doing performances, or other visual artists that do performances. And that's a time when theater and visual arts combined. And so this is a sculptor. I love Nick Cave, and these are called sound suits. And so he would have a performance where people would be wearing these sound suits, but these are also stationary sculptures. And you can see one of these as well in the, and I'll show you a performance of wearing a sound suit. And so these are obviously drawing from ancient African culture, where mixed media was always, and I showed you that with Picasso. I didn't show you a lot of the mixed media, but they would use nails, they would use straw, anything, because they knew that material expressed where it was expressive. And so he is bringing that to his work. These beautiful sculptures where that his history, African history, he's bringing the medium, and so that's what his work is about. Lovely, lovely. Now, this is very, 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 very contemporary, and this is called lowbrow, and only really young folks are going to know this because it is, and it's prominently and started in California, and you can say, oh, well, this is like cartoons. Well, yeah, that's what's popular, anime. Lowbrow. Now, this is also, lowbrow is also called pop surrealism. Sound familiar? Pop and surrealism. All right. So, it is humorous. It is impish. It does have its roots in comics, punk, tiki culture, etc., and spray paint, and bringing all this together. You'd say, well, why isn't that graffiti art? Well, it could be, but it's not. But I'm sure these lowbrow artists do graffiti. It is graffiti-esque, put it that way. If it's on a wall, it's going to be graffiti art. But lowbrow, they have a sort of a consensus about the work is about, and that's why we put it in that style. You could mix it with other styles, and you would probably be correct. But when I say this is a style, that just means that a group have defined it and they've come up with these parameters of, well, this is what we're doing. Okay, that's it. And so here's so this is on canvas. Oil, acrylic spray paint, and paint on canvas. Lowbrow, Kenny Scarf. And this is some more Kenny Scarf. You can see that's not graffiti-esque. Okay. So, and here's some that you may like, and this is Castillo. She's unreal, and this is lowbrow. Again, you've got that cartoonish, not childlike, but you know, a cartoonish, an animation kind of feel to it. This artist in particular, and it's figurative. And then this artist. He's lowbrow, and to me, this is more, this little painting called Jessica's Hope, you know, this is more an illustration, but it is lowbrow fine art. And it's very interesting, and it's quite beautiful. One that's really big, super flat. Super flat is big as the Renaissance. It's big. And it's a Japanese artist coming out of Japan that defines this. And it's flattening everything. Yes, it is going to be cartoon-esque, but everything is flattened. And he named it super flat. And so here is the octopus eats its own leg. And this is Murakami. Tashaki Murakami is big, students. I'm not sure that you're on this. He is a big international artist. And here is some of all those little flowers you see, that was his first. He painted all these little flowers. So it looks like something for children, right? But actually, it's actually very sophisticated, and you definitely would like to own one of these because they're, or invest in one of these because they're highly valued because of this artist. Because he heralded in this style. And then here's some of his sculptures. Yeah. So you can say, well, this sort of looks like Jeff Koons, his balloon doll. Well, yeah, but it's very distinctly Murakami. Okay. You know, I have to touch upon computer art. And now computer art, it is so big. I cannot go into all this. So I went and just wrote all this out because this is in my contemporary, my Art 400, my seniors, we talk about this. And some of these things I'm sharing with you. And, you know, you're looking at a whole new world. video art, visual effects, animation, internet systems, digital painting, algorithms art, fractal art. It goes on forever. So there's a lot of text here, but you just need to know that new media is the big word. New media. New media is the umbrella for all these different things. Computer art, animation, virtual, internet art. It's called new media. Now, we in studio, traditionally we say media, multimedia, where we mix materials. This is new media, and that's how it's sort of been coined to make a distinction, okay? Versus traditional painting. It's called new media. It makes sense. So, there's so much here, and if you go onto this link, this sculpture here, this is sculpture, and this is larger than life size, and this little fellow looks like a puppet. He's just drug around. He's hung by the scaffolding, and he's just drug on the floor or up the wall, and it's all, the movement is determined by how he has programmed the computer to move this. There's a randomness. And so this is sculpture. New media sculpture. Here's another one. And this is by another artist, and she actually moves. So you'd have to go to that link, and this will be very entertaining for you because she is, this is right here where she's connected. She's looking at herself, and she also moves, and that link shows you that. So this is new media sculpture. We still have bronze, we still have wood, we still have ceramics. That won't go away, but we have more. And so that idea of installation art by the earthwork artist, that actually was very important because it's not permanent. It's not something you can own. It's not made out of bronze. And what are we using? We're using the earth. So all this is interconnected. And so here you have, this is virtual art where this is actually just moving images. You can't see it, so all you can see are stills. You just have to go to the link. And I hope you will, because you'll find this fascinating. And this is another one. New media sculpture. Mixing technology with sculptural forms. And look at this. I love that. Sculpture with robotic arm. The title is Hello. So here we take this sculpture, this classical sculpture, and now we mount this moving arm on it, because after all, it is 2015. Nice juxtaposition. Postmodern, therefore, juxtaposition of unlike things, of the old and the new, bringing layered meaning. Therefore, this is all postmodern. Now, this is an interactive virtual reality installation. All you can see are stills, but again, this is an art form, virtual reality. Computer art is vast. Our students are computer graphic majors. They are making computer art, and also they're doing commercial art. Okay, and you're using, it's also called digital art. A lot of different names, digital art. So if you get online, it's internet art. Okay, a lot of different names for the same, for similar but different formats or platforms. I think that'd be the proper word, platforms. And this is another virtual art piece that you would go to, and this guy is just running and running and running, and you just have to stand before it and watch it. If not, you just get a still. And that's probably how this artist would sell work, is he would sell a still, because the virtual film or computer graphics projection, he only has one, so he's probably going to sell stills of that. There you go, and that's YouTube for you to see it. Them running, 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 and they just disappearing. So I just want to conclude, Whoa, this is a lot of information, a lot of words. Not really. Let me just say this. Art is many things. Contemporary art is many things. And constructing the postmodern self is, who are we now? And if art reflects who we are, you're going to see some challenging work. You're going to see some beautiful work. You're going to see political work. You're going to be work that you have no idea what it's about. Because there's so many things happening at once. So many themes. All these styles haven't gone away since the Renaissance. And then all those styles of modernism, people are still working in that way and combining and everything. So there's all these styles at the same time. The Renaissance was easy. It was one style. Do it this way. So this is why it gets a little complicated. And so this just talks about, all and different things that influence, like the art market influences directions for artists to go. And the internet, how that has made artists become famous, or there's just so many relative influences now that when you did the modern, even on your assignment, I just picked out 5 influences. Well, those influences have tripled at this time. But I just wanted to, and this is what I've said, it could be many things, but here, you say, well, okay, but can't we still have beauty? Yeah, we do. I would say it really is just a matter of whose beauty, because your beauty might be different than mine and vice versa. But students, don't worry. We will always have beauty because we like realism. But, it starts with really Chuck Close, who it's not gone. So there's that picture by Chuck Close in the 70s, photorealism. And look, this is sculpture today. This is a sculpture by Munch, and this is a life-size sculpture, oversized in a gallery. And he has a lot of sort of works, and one is in your book if you look him up. It's sort of, I don't know what the word to use. It's challenging. It's sort of, it's unsettling, put it that way. This is a nice piece. But yeah, life-size sculpture. He is a super realist. We call that, by the way, hyper-realism. Hyper-realism. And here you go. Here's a drawing, and here's a painting. Drawing on the left, black and white, and here's a painting on the right. So yes, we still have realism. Amazing realism, because we have tools. We have cameras, and we can enlarge, and we can have these tools that we can use to project. And so we have all these tools where they didn't have as many tools, in the Renaissance. But they did have a system that they used to project images. Camera obscura, it's called. But we have a lot of tools. And we can manipulate an image now. We can change the image in a lot of different ways to maybe make it, like our clarity and crisper, or the contrast. So we have all these tools to use. But students, we will always have realism. Realism is wonderful. And I like to end by saying this. This is where we started. The Caves of Lascaux. There were others, but this is realism. To these artists that wanted to say, I can draw those animals, because if I can draw those animals close to what they look like, then with these spears, we'll have a better hunting day tomorrow. So we will always have realism. We have many, many different things. And unfortunately, that's where I'm going to end with you. But you will have crossed the bridge when you learn modernism. And some of these styles, you will have crossed the bridge into not only the 20th, but the 21st century, and just enjoy it.